Welcome to Office Hours by Triple X Church. I'm your host, Carl Thomas. I'm a pastor, certified neurohealth coach, and a guy who frankly struggled with a lot of stuff I talk about here for over 20 years until I found freedom about a decade ago. In today's episode, I'm going to be jumping in and answering this question. Do you know of any affordable treatment centers for sex addiction? That's what I will be discussing today, so make sure you hang in there with me. Recognize that no questions are off the table, and I'm going to be as honest with my answers as I possibly can be, so don't get offended. Without any further delay, let's jump in. Okay, so this question came into our office hours page. She writes, my husband has a porn and masturbation and massage parlor addiction. He's been trying to find an inexpensive treatment center that will allow him time to detox without bankrupting us. Do you know of any affordable treatment centers for sex addiction? So one thing with this office hours idea when we came out with it was we're going to take all questions, even if I don't have a great answer. And I don't want to look like we always have the perfect answer. So I'm going to answer this because this is one of those where I don't have a great answer for you. The reality is when you're dealing with sex addiction treatment, therapy centers, or even counselors, all of this stuff is very, very hard to provide an answer for because it comes down to the particular or the individual health insurance. It comes down to the state. It comes down to the center or the doctor. There's so many variables here. In fact, sometimes, depending on the insurance and the center, you might be able to go to a center where you have to pay out of pocket, but then you can get benefit on the back end from your health insurance provider as an out-of-network expense. But again, it all depends on what your health insurance package is, how all that works. So it's really hard for me to tell you, or impossible for me to tell you, hey, this sex addiction treatment center should work for you. I don't know how long he's going to have to be there or how long he wants to be there. I don't know, honestly, what affordable means. My idea of affordable might be different from yours. So that's all difficult to say. What I would tell you is this. First of all, you definitely obviously need to keep it affordable. Going into recovery and bankruptcy at the same time is not going to help, because that's the financial stress will make things worse. But I will say it is one of those things that it's worth the investment. So if it's, hey, option A, I go into recovery, but I might have to cut a few expenses on the other end that aren't mandatory for us, but they are things we like. We're not going to go out to eat 3 times a week. That's probably worth the trade-off, right? So that's what you got to look at versus option B, where it's, well, we don't really want to give up our lifestyle and we don't really have the money to pay this without giving up a bunch of things we like. So we're going to pass on the recovery. Recovery is worth the investment. As far as an addiction treatment center and detox. So detox with drug use and alcohol use, detox centers are definitely something that can be very helpful or even needed, especially in the case of alcohol addiction, because the withdrawal itself can literally kill somebody if it's not managed properly by a medical professional. When you're withdrawing from heroin, it feels like you want to die. You won't die, but again, if you're not in a detox center, it's going to be very, very difficult to go through that withdrawal or detox without it. And we're talking about porn and sex addiction. I'm not going to tell you there's not some sort of withdrawal or detox needed, if you will. These things, what we're dealing with are changes to the brain that have occurred over time. And so getting off of those constant hits of dopamine, that's what we're dealing with, and letting our brain kind of reset to a normal level can take a while, at least a month or so. And even with porn addiction, you got to understand, or sex addiction or any sort of addiction that we're dealing with, getting your brain to a baseline level in terms of the dopamine experiences and how it operates, that's only part of the problem. Okay, even if you fix all the brain aspects in terms of how your reward system works and all these things, he still needs to deal with the emotional damage that is driving this behavior in the first place, the trauma from his childhood, these different things. If he doesn't deal with that stuff, he's just going to be back in the same soup after his quote unquote detox. What happens is a lot of times when we get into this recovery world, where a lot of people mess up is they think if they just do this one thing, they'll be fine. And the reality is, it's a lot of things. It's not just one thing. You know, you need the support, right? So support groups and communities are really important. And I'll be honest, if he doesn't have a community around him, I think he's going to struggle. Um, Having a therapist or a counselor or even a coach, that can be very, very helpful because that's going to help him unpack some of the pain and trauma that he's dealt with and help him address that, which again, you need to do if you want any sort of long-term freedom. Uh, Courses, books, like all these things can help. So I would say if you're looking for affordable solutions, go that route in the beginning rather than a detox center. And then he can detox on his own, if you will, uh, over a course of time. As he uses porn less and less and less, as he goes to or masturbates less and less and less, his brain's going to settle down, right? Those dopamine levels are going to kind of return to normal. He's going to repair all the different things that he's kind of messed up over the years through consistent use and abuse. I know from experience. I'm that guy. My brain was jacked up, and after months and months of sobriety, things started to settle down a bit for me, and it could be the same thing for him. So check out the Live Free community at livefreecommunity.org. That's a cheap, inexpensive way where he can at least get started. Put some type of support system around him. Dive into some courses because the courses are included for free. Get connected with some of the counselors we have in there who are consistent contributors. That's a great place to start. Smallgroupsonline.com is also another great place. That's our weekly support group system. And again, those support's really needed. He could also go to x3pure.com for our pornography recovery course. That's a great course. That's going to give him a lot of information that'll at least help him start to understand what he's dealing with. And then, of course, look at counselors, because if you look at licensed counselors and you have insurance, you're going to have less problems finding somebody that he can go see without having to pay out of pocket, right? Generally speaking, a licensed counselor is going to accept insurance. They might not accept yours, so you might have to do some searching, but I think you'll have less problems if you just go the route of counseling versus trying to find a treatment center. So there you go. That's all I got. I hope all of that helps somewhat. If you have a question for me and you want me to answer it sometime in the near future, go to xxchurch.com/office-hours, submit your questionnaire, and I will answer it in an upcoming episode. That's about it for now. Have a great week.